live, and this is how we're starting off. But before we go, we shall have the bulletins, we shall have the newspaper review, then later we shall have a great and a ground launch of the EBN Gospel Storm. You can watch this program and bulletin through our social media platforms, that is EBN TV all across. Our SMS line is 23059. And this is how we're starting off this news update. And President William Ruto has dismissed opposition claims that they are gaining ground ahead of the 2027 general elections, asserting that his track record of development will speak to voters and the ballot. Speaking at a service at JCM Church in Kiambu County, President Ruto said Kenyans would ultimately decide whether to grant him another term, highlighting the achievements of his development agenda. During the address, he also announced plans to construct a direct Thika highway with work scheduled to commence in September this year, signaling his continued focus on infrastructure as a key pillar of his administration.
Wakati tulisema bottom up haikukuwa slogan, ilikuwa ni mpango. Tuliwaambia kina mama wetu ya kwamba pale wanafanya biashara tutawapangia mahali pazuri pa kufanya biashara. Mahali kuna stima, kuna maji, kuna usafi, kuna cold room, kuna storage. Leo mimi nafurahi Kiambu. Na wauliza nyinyi viongozi, tuwache kunyosheana vidole ya lawama. Let us solve the problems that emanate in Kiambu County. You have the responsibility to solve the problems of Kiambu County because you are the elected leaders. Nego kana tigwo? Tunaelewana? Tunaelewana? Kwa hivyo na wauliza viongozi, let us take up our responsibility so that we can support Kiambu County. Na waomba viongozi tushirikiane, tufanye kazi kwa pamoja. Sisi wote, mimi, Wamatangi, Kimani, Kingara, Wamuradha, huyu ndugu yangu Kawanjiko, Karobio hapo, Kagombe pale, Mama Simba hapa, sisi sote mmetuchagua. Sisi sote mmetuchagua. Mmetupigia kura. Leo Kiambu County, pesa ambayo tunatumia hapa mwaka huu peke yake ni bilioni 15. Barabara tulikubaliana na nyinyi ya dualing ya kutoka pale Pangani mpaka Denderu. Hiyo barabara ni shilingi bilioni 22 na tuko na hiyo pesa. Contractor anakuja hapo, tutajenga, tutamaliza. Tutaunganisha hii barabara kutoka Kamakis hapa, mpaka ifike Kiambu Town. Na nimewaeleza watu wa Kiambu, na hata hiyo amuku niomba, mimi nimepanga mwenyewe. Nikasema hii jam, si mnajua pale tukipita Githurai inaanza jam, inasumbua watu mpaka kufikia Museum Hill. Mimi nimewaeleza saa hizi na wapangia vile tulijenga ile barabara ya expressway kutoka Jomo Kenyatta mpaka Westlands. Sasa nafanya ukarabati mambo kidogo kidogo. Mwezi wa 9 mimi nakuja hapa kuanzisha expressway ya watu wa Kiambu ya kutoka hapa Thika mpaka Museum Hill.
And moving on, principals of the United Opposition have intensified their criticism of what they describe as a growing use of icons to disrupt church service and political rallies, warning that the trend threatens constitutional freedoms of worship and assembly. Speaking during a church service at PCA Utawala Parish in Embakasi East constituency, Nairobi County, the opposition leaders said every Kenyan is entitled to fundamental rights that must be safeguarded. The team, led by Rigathi Gachagua, leader of the Democracy for the Citizens Party, DCP, faulted the government for what they termed as inaction in arresting individuals allegedly responsible for chaos at public gatherings. Gachagua, a former deputy president, maintained that failure to act against perpetrators has emboldened lawlessness.
I am happy that our church was attacked by goons and police in Waiting in April last year. 10 months down the line, the goons have never been arrested. Again, our PCA church in Karubanda was attacked by goons and police. Nobody has ever been arrested.
Mr. President, you have once again misread the mood of the country. Because in 2024, when Gen Z were having demonstrations, again the government misread the mood of the country. We woke up one morning in a country that has been peaceful, citizens of the country who are armed with nothing overran Parliament. And these citizens raised specific issues. Since that time, nobody, even this government, has been coherent enough in saying this is what Gen Z were raising and these are the solutions we are provided. Tukaendelea na sarakasi ya kawaida. Abracadabra ya cabinet, badilisha huyu, then you end up here, so on and so forth. Story, you know, and so on. You have once again misread the mood of the country. Mimi nafikiri, I am not a prophet and I have no credentials to prophesy. Tukiendelea hivi, we are headed the wrong direction.
You agree with me, the city center is not a place to do business. It's a place inhabited by police-assisted goons. Wahuni ambao wamepatiwa mamlaka na serikali ya William Ruto. I will be very careful, Mheshimiwa CS, tukienda huko Kisii kesho, nikubali or not address William Ruto as Mr. President. People are tired. Watu wamechoka. Watu wanataka, this is revolution time. Bato wenyewe imeletwa ndani ya kanisa. And the church, in fact, I would have expected that when we went to visit Inspector General Kanja, the church leadership should have joined us. Dress properly, say we will not accept what happened at Witima, ACK Church. We can't understand what happened in Mwiki. We will not accept it.
Kanisa muendelee kuombea taifa letu. Sababu what is happening in our country is a violation of our constitution. Our constitution guarantees certain rights and freedoms. One of the most sacred of all is that of freedom of worship.
And preparations are in full swing ahead of the United Opposition's highly anticipated 3-day tour of Kisii and Nyamira counties, with the residents urged to maintain peace and order before, during and after the political engagements in the Kisii region. The visit is expected to draw significant public interest as opposition leaders intensify grassroots mobilization efforts on Sunday. Top officials from the Jubilee Party are scheduled to officially open the party's Nyamira County offices just a day after launching the regional headquarters in Kisii. The move signals a renewed political activity in the region as parties position themselves ahead of future contests. The tour will culminate on Monday with a series of high-profile rallies hosted by Jubilee Deputy Party Leader Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Among leaders expected to attend are Kalonzo Musyoka, Rigathi Gachagua and Eugene Wamalwa, alongside other members of the opposition coalition.
Us to decide who our flag bearer is must be through scientific methods and formula.
Mimi nataka kuwauliza tukue na heshima, tusaidie Fred Okengo Matiang'i ili aweze kuwa rais. Nyumbani tutamsindikisha mpaka asubuhi sana, ikifika saa 4 amefika nyumbani.
From Monday through Wednesday, we shall host a historic engagement with our people, a moment of dialogue and a renewed hope for our great nation. As a region known for its resilience, wisdom and political awareness, we in Kisii and Nyamira counties are ready to stand firm in shaping the future of Kenya.
And away from that story, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and leaders of the United Opposition have outlined key policy pledges they plan to implement if they assume government. Speaking at a public gathering, Gachagua elated initiatives including the reinstatement of free education, reintroduction of the National Hospital Insurance Fund (NHIF), and the abolition of the Social Health Authority (SHAM). On the political front, the opposition leader did not hold back, sharply criticizing President William Ruto's administration, claiming that the government has failed to deliver on key promises and adequately address citizens' concerns.
Sisi tunataka tupate nafasi, tukipata serikali tulegeshe masomo ya bure ya primary school ambaye tulipewa na Rais Mwai Kibaki. Tunataka tukipata serikali masomo ya day secondary school ikuwe bila malipo. Tunataka tukipata serikali tufukuze mnyama anaitwa SHA, turegeshe NHIF na tuirekebishe. Katika serikali yetu vijana hawatatekwa nyara na hawatapigwa risasi. ODM iko mara mbili, ile ODM Bonoko, ile ya Kasongo na Oburu, na ile ODM halali ya Sifuna na Babu Owino. Hivyo hapa Kanairo, waacha kidogo, hapa Kanairo tukubaliane, gavana, seneta, women rep, wabunge wote 17, wakilishi wodi 85 watachaguliwa na vyama ya muungano wa upinzani. Tumekubaliana. Tumesema hapa Kanairo, Kasongo na UDA wasipate hata kiti moja ndani ya jiji Nairobi. Na ile ODM Bonoko, ile ya Wanga na Oburu na Juneti na Kasongo wasipate kiti hata moja katika jiji la Nairobi.
2023-24 Gen-Z wakawawa, hadi sasa hawajapata haki yao. Tunasema for justice to be done, Ruto must. Kurekebisha elimu, Ruto must. Afya, nilikuwa waziri wa Uhuru, sisi tulisema linda mama wa mama wetu, ukienda hospitali watibiwe bure. Uwe bibi wa bodaboda, uwe bibi wa mwalimu, uwe bibi wa daktari, ukifika kwa hospitali unazaa bure, serikali inasimamia. Ruto kuingia na bottom up, akatoa linda mama, akaleta SHA, sho. Imeharibu maisha yenu, hajaribu jamani. Ni miezi michache imebaki Embakasi. Kanairo ni miezi michache imebaki. Kasongo asonge Sugoi, tuchukue serikali turudishe linda mama.
And moving on, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has condemned certain political leaders for allegedly inciting violence during their rallies as a way to boost personal popularity. Speaking during a Sunday service at AIC Kip Kailion Church in Kericho County, Murkomen wanted that strict action would be taken against anyone found engaging in unrest as political gatherings, especially during this election preparation period.
I want to request politicians, wale walikuwa Kakamega jana, wale walikuwa Nyeri, wale wamekuwa Nairobi, nendeni mikutano kwa amani. Nenda mkutano, tutaweka polisi kwa hiyo mkutano, lakini msitupatie hii comedy yenye mnaenda mkutano na tear gas, unaenda mkutano kuenda kujilinda tear gas mwenyewe, na unaenda mkutano kama umebeba majambazi na maguns na visu na mawe na marungu. That we will deal with it firmly. The IG has a responsibility to ensure yule mtu alikuwa anatupa tear gas jana ndio blame police officers. He must be searched and arrested for that kind of acts of trying to seek for sympathy and to incite the people of Kenya.
And the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Jackson Ole Sapit, has called on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) to urgently address the escalating political tensions sweeping across the country more than a year and a half before the next general election. Speaking on the growing political activity, Archbishop Sapit expressed concern over the rising political temperatures, warning that early hostility could undermine national stability and peaceful coexistence. He strongly condemned the increasing use of violent gangs and political rallies, cautioning that such actions pose a serious threat to national security and democratic order. The Archbishop urged political leaders to tone down confrontational rhetoric and focus instead of delivering essential services to Kenyans.
Ni nafasi yao kujitokeza wazi kwa Wakenya kusema kile kinafanyika sasa si halali ama haikubaliki, na basi waanze kuona ni nini inafanyika. IEBC ndio inaweza pamoja na EACC kusema mikutano hizi ikiwa na furugu, basi wanaweza kudisqualify mtu kwa kuleta furugu. Sasa tumeingia culture ambayo hatujaona hapa awali ya watu wanaitwa goons, ambayo wanakombolewa na wanasiasa wa mirengo tofauti tofauti, na kila mrengo ina goons yake. Na nataka kutahadharisha Wakenya kwamba hawa ambayo tunawazoesha pesa ya fujo na furugu, nje ya Haiti ilianza tu hivi. Wale walitrainiwa na mirengo za wanasiasa, na basi ikawa shida na tishio kwa nchi, mpaka nchi zingine na mataifa wanakuja kuingilia kati.
On a different story, residents of Bula Karatasi in Madogo, Tana River County, woke up to shock and grief after a 29-year-old man allegedly killed his wife and their 1.5-year-old daughter before taking his own life. The man, identified only as Joshua, is said to have been unemployed and had reportedly sought temporary accommodation from a friend as he searched for work to support his young family. Police officers who visited the scene have launched investigations and are piecing together details to establish the circumstances and motive behind the killings. The bodies of the three were moved to Garissa Referral Hospital mortuary, where the three await postmortem examinations.
Akaniambia pia nimtafutie kazi na nimsaidie nyumba kwa wiki moja mbili ndio ajisimamie, shughulikie familia yake. Sasa venye tulienda kazi jioni, kukuja asubuhi tumepata yeye amejimaliza, ameua bibi na ameua mtoto.
Nafikiri kitendo hiko haiko kitendo ambaye ilikuwa mzuri, na tunajaribu kuhimiza wazazi ya kwamba changamoto ya maisha iko, tusijaribu kuchukua hatua ya kisheria kwa mkono, ama tufanye kitendo kama hizi ambaye ni kitendo si mzuri.
Banyamulenge refugees living in Kenya have called on the international community to urgently intervene in the escalating violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, claiming civilians continue to bear the brunt of renewed attacks. Speaking during a memorial mass held in Nairobi to honor victims of latest violence, members of the community alleged that recent attacks in South Kivu involved drone strikes reportedly carried out by Congolese government forces. They claimed the assaults left several civilians dead and homes destroyed. Community representatives say the Banyamulenge people remain targets of violence due to their ethnic identity and cultural ties, despite having no influence over the colonial era border that determined their nationality. They expressed concern over what they described as persistent insecurity in the region.
Na tunavyoishi, lakini kwa miaka hii 8 ya baadaye ndipo vita vilikuwa vikali zaidi, lakini siku hizi ni government yenyewe yote, karibu yote kabisa ni kinyume nasi. Kila siku drone zinaua watu, kila siku mabomu ya kila siku mpaka leo asubuhi vita vimeendelea.
Mimi ni miongoni mwa wale ambao nimejeruhiwa kupitia hizo vita. Unaona, sina viungo, sina mikono, hata na pande zingine ambazo nimeumia vikali kupitia miaka mingi ambazo tumepitia hizo vita. Mpaka sasa hivi naendelea kuongea ama kulia ili Umoja wa Mataifa na nchi zingine zipate kutusikiliza.
I used to live in Kasai. My husband was killed. I was in prison with my 7 children, including pregnancy. Because what? Because I was a Banyamulenge, only for the reason. And I believe whole world, the whole nation, they try just to ignore.
Morning Live takes a short break. We're coming back with the newspaper review. Stick around. Good morning once again, and welcome back to Morning Live, and this is the newspaper review. We've got the Daily Nation and the Kenya's Board newspaper, the Standard, and we're starting off with the Standard, and we shall have just a very short time to do this review because of other activities ahead of us, and we're starting off with the Standard newspaper, where we're looking at 2 figures very key in ODM party. They are all members of the ODM party, and we saw what Sifuna, the Secretary General, did over last weekend around Kitengela against what was happening in Tononoka, Kwale County. Now, yesterday or this weekend, they staged their rally around Kakamega County, and we saw what was sweeping around. And now the Standard is calling it the dynamic duo, the tip-off, and it's the thirst for change. And with 2 lives lost at the site, as the state reverts to its old habit of using violence to protect power, the country's youth are rallying behind the Mimi Ndiye Sifuna slogans. The political analysts say recent ODM clashes have lifted the fog of a party alignments, revealing a growing desire for a younger generation to carry Kenya's aspirations into 2027. The 2 most dynamic figures now tasked with sustaining this momentum are embattled ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna and Embakasi East MP Babu Owino. And there's something I want to read, a sentiment from Professor Peter Kagwanja. He's a political commentator. Remember, there is also the restiveness of the country, and it is helping Sifuna and Babu. So Sifuna and team are here to stay and ultimately could square it out with the united opposition. They are going to change the political equation, and that is the picture they are bringing in for the ODM party. Remember what has been happening from the death of the founder and former of the ODM party, Raila Odinga, the Prime Minister. And from last year, October there, we've seen wrangles within and we've seen wrangles even without, because we've seen the misunderstanding and the kind of disagreements within the very key members of the ODM party. But what we're seeing, maybe from some weeks or months ago, we've seen the orange being cut into pieces, and this is to mean maybe there are those who have the very best interest for the party, and maybe they are all are pushed in for the last and greed of politics. I mean, maybe what comes in, or the benefits and advantages of being or having yourselves in the midst of a party or within a party setting or setup. Now, what we're seeing from the top page of the Standard is another picture branded here to show us maybe ODM party is taking another shift, or even is taking another turn to maybe different things. And maybe we are, because we're looking at young people maybe who are, or even a generation wanting to take this country into a different direction. That's a story you can read from top page of the Standard. And the biggest question we can ask ourselves after the wrangles, or the wrangles within, will be benefiting from the party divisions, will be benefiting maybe those who have been there for the longest time, or even those who are just emerging very strong, who will be benefiting from the division of the party. Page 2 of the Standard newspaper. Opposition leaders say they will have one presidential candidate. Now, the leaders promised to work with Senator Edwin Sifuna and Embakasi MP Babu Owino. Now they vowed to allow the president to determine the next IBC boss. Okay. Now, that's a story you can also read from page 2 of the Standard. Now, we're looking at 18 constituencies in Nairobi that former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the opposition will win in the next general election together with the 85 wards, the Senate and governorship. Then, page 3 of the Standard, poverty forces girl 8 to stand in all for therapy. In rural Bungoma, poverty and disability have forced a grandmother to improvise therapy for her granddaughter. The 8-year-old stands daily in her aunt Dag all exposing unaffordable disability support realities. Then we also got the issue of SHA, and we are promised it's fully working, but we're looking at a small girl here who is they've improvised a mechanism maybe for therapy, and this is in rural Bungoma. So we need to see that our health sector is working as promised. Now, after Raila, can Sifuna lead restless Kenyans to long-promised land of milk and honey? Remember, Oburu Oginga, doctor, promised us to go to, you will be taking us to Kenen through Singapore. But the biggest question from the Standard is, after Raila, can Sifuna lead restless Kenyans to long-promised land of milk and honey? Whether the senator ultimately becomes the modern Joshua depends on factors beyond his control. What is clear is that Kenya's opposition vacuum will not remain vacant indefinitely. The story is page 4 and 5 of the Standard. Now, why Sifuna, Babu and team must find ways to sustain fresh narrative. So they have to sit down, they have to meditate upon this, they have to think critically and so hard to make sure that maybe as they forge this way forward, they know what they'll be doing and maybe what will be taking place as they forge forward, and maybe as they designed to be the biggest engines and machines for the 2027 or even for the generation that is coming in. In Sifuna and Natembeya Western Seas, return of Muliro Kijana duo, that is page 7. Then page 8, it's all about the issue of SHA. Fate of former NHIF staff in limbo amid SHA recruitment wrangles, and legal and hiring disputes continues. Hundreds of former NHIF staff await deployment, and allegations of regional bias, pay delays and job grading disputes deepen transition challenges. That's a story you can read from page 8. Then page 9, coffee market goes digital to boost farmers' returns. It has been a cry for the longest time possible, and because of this change, let's see whether coffee farmers will be benefiting from this. And Nairobi deals failed governors or state house grid for power, and this is an explain I did on Thursday. We're waiting to see how this brings in. It's all about the 80 billion deal from out with President William Ruto and Governor Johnson Sakaja. President Ruto has signed a collaboration agreement with Governor John Sakaja. Uhuru unveiled the Nairobi Metropolitan Service that strips Songo of his power, and we saw maybe the revival of the NMS, and we're expecting it may be taking place because very key functions will be taken or transferred from the county government to the national government, which constitutionally sometimes is right or even wrong depending on what the governor is doing. And if the key functions are transferred from county government to the national government, this is clearly to mean Governor Sakaja will just be ceremonial, just be governor on papers, but on what he's supposed to be doing as the responsibilities, duties of a governor are outlined, you just be ceremonial and just a governor on papers. What are the effects of that deal? Now, page 10, Northeastern Kenya's horrid history of conflict and state neglect, a story you can read from page 10. And stranded up north, ascribes tale covering drought-stricken region, and this is from northeastern region. You can read it from page 11 of the Standard. Now, it's all about opinion and the Standard. We're looking at ODM and Raila and you can look at the caricature from page 12 of the Standard newspaper. And before I go to the caricature, there is a statement there that police must stop being political or politicians' puppets, because I said some other times there, what makes the difference is that because you're just a police officer, you're uniformed and you have maybe the ammunition. That is what makes you different from another civilian. But once you're stripped of that, you just become normal as the other person. So maybe trying to protect the politician against the will of the citizens, or even you protecting the politician neglecting the civilians or citizens. This is to mean maybe you being pushed to be a puppet of someone, or even not taking care of what you should be doing at your work, or even as you work out lines. And it's all about utumishi kwa wote, but we see that is not taking place. Now on the caricature, we're looking at ODM and Raila, and we see a dog barking maybe towards someone who is, the face is hidden, the face is masked up, that you can't understand who is this. But this is to clearly mean that ODM and Raila, it was very strict, and maybe it could push away any person, any intruder coming in to affect the operations, the normal operations and the daily operations of the ODM party. Now we're looking again at ODM and Oburu. Remember the caricature on page 12 of the Standard. Now the dog again. Remember the first picture, or the first photo is a dog barking against any intruder, and the second photo or representation is someone in suit, in a green suit and a yellow shirt, and the dog is settled, and maybe the tank is out. This is to mean maybe it is trying to salivate for something, and this is to show maybe after Oginga took over, or even because he's now the interim party leader, that is maybe what he's eyeing for, and maybe this is all about the last that comes in with politics and maybe the division within ODM party. We reach there on the Standard newspaper. We're moving on into the Daily Nation. Scandals after scandals and graft after graft, and South African golfer holds nerve to win 60 million Magical Kenya Open top prize. That is, we can see that from back page. And Kenya's foot 175 million bill for Uhuru's judges blunder, and President Uhuru Kenyatta's refusal in 2020 to appoint 41 judges even after court orders was a potent mix of politics, espionage, and executive handball that taxpayers continue to pay 5 years later. That's a story you can read from page 3 of the Daily Nation. Now, the scandals I was mentioning of, it's all about defense. President Ruto has showcased the project as a success story, and the 11 billion Talanda Stadium scandal. Then they were casting doubts, but we trusted the process. Now look and see for yourself. The Talanda Stadium is right here. This is huge. You love it. And so from President Ruto during a tour of the facility on February 27th this year. Then we're looking at a price variation. Audit says contract sum rose to 45.8 billion from 35 billion without explanation. Then illegal procurement. We're looking at the scandals within and within the Talanda Stadium. Now, illegal procurement, no justification for bypassing open tendering system. The National General ignored. AG's approval was never sought as required by law for contracts worth over 5 billion. Remember, there is approval that need to be done by the Attorney General if a contract surpasses a 5 billion mark, but that was not put into consideration. Then cost overruns, lopsided agreement imposes heavy penalties for delays to pay contractor. Then Matiang'i tours Gusii amid Mount Kenya's jitters. Former Individual Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i today begins a 3-day tour of his Gusii region as he seeks to solidify his base and shore up his bid for the joint opposition presidential flag bearer in next year's general election. His endorsement by former President Uhuru Kenyatta's party Jubilee has caused jitters among opposition leaders from Mount Kenya, led by former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. A story you can read from page 7 of the Daily Nation. Then very fast, now why Lodwar is new counterfeit and banned pesticides or sport. You can read that story from page 2 of the Daily Nation. Then it's all about violation. Court said Constitution does not give President discretion in appointment of judges. A story you can read, and it's all about politics where espionage and 175 million bill for Uru's Blanda. Story you can read from page 3. And then the issue of Talanda Stadium and the scandal you can read from page 4. Then page 5 with the 20 billion facilities land taken over by cartel. The story you can read from page 5. Then keep off DP seat Kindiki lifestyle Oburu now. This is the story, interesting story from page 6. It's been a twist of words here and there, twist of events, and twist of maybe statements from one leader to the other. Oburu promises that they don't need that deputy president seat, but another time he changes to a point where they need the seat for ODM, and now you can see our deputy president is backing back, or his allies backing back to Oburu Oginga, or even to ODM. Then page 7, Matiang'i opposition to Gusii amid Mount Kenya jitters. Then page 8, and wrangles and work, Ruto tells Kiambu County leaders. Now, politics is politics, and politics a joke, and maybe it's a game that we may never understand, and even if we try to understand it, it takes twists and turns every day. Now, we can see, we remember what happened to Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu governor, and again we looking at what happened yesterday in a church. It's a promise, or even it's a plea from our president that they need to end wrangles and work. Ruto tells Kiambu County leaders, where is the lie? Where is the lie? Now they almost lost. State bears heavier blame for Kenyans in Russia war. That's a story that has been taking place for almost 1 year, and something about taking advantage of the most desperate in our community. And the government and maybe the CS Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, need to take this into action, and maybe these people need to be taken back to this country. Then the last story, it's all about Nairobi crying out for high-tech police unit. We'll see whether that will work. Then the last one, outlaws are making a killing a story. Actually, this is a very interesting story from page 11 of the Daily Nation. You can read for yourself. Now, because of time, I'll be stopping there. The newspaper review and the news updates that we just given out to you. Thank you for watching Morning Live EBN TV. And coming up next is the ground launch of the EBN Gospel Stamp. Please don't go too far. We'll be back in a moment.